major AI company is right now centralized, it's closed, it's rent seeking. Blockchain was here to fix exactly that problem. So why isn't decentralized AI worth the $1 trillion yet? And before we're going to discuss exactly this, I would like to have a brief introduction of you, your name, the company you work for, and what you're doing.
Yes, hello again. I'm Alessandro and I'm the co-founder at Acurast with an engineering background. Yes.
Hello, everyone. This is Elizabeth. I'm the head of ecosystem at Flock. What we do is actually already in our name, Flock, federated learning on the blockchain. So we basically enable enterprises and institutions, including hospitals, governments, companies, to train on their private data without needing the data to leave their devices or jurisdiction. So we basically do federated learning and verified by blockchain.
Hello everyone, my name is Jan and I'm from Elastics. We are envisioning the future in which everyone has its own trading quantitative assistant in phone or wherever, and TradFi, DeFi, everywhere, but we are starting from prediction markets and building agenting workflows for serious traders at prediction markets.
Perfect. So I would like to start to talk a little bit about the current infrastructure and also the infrastructure bet. So we've seen that VCs have invested like billions of dollars into AI infrastructure, like GPUs, data centers, foundation models, and but almost none of these are decentralized. So is that a missing opportunity or is it a rational call? And if I start with you, Alessandro, Acurast, you guys runs AI on 250,000 devices instead of data centers. So what's the infrastructure argument? Is it cost, censorship, resistance, or something else?
Yeah, I mean, we took actually the exact opposite view of just sourcing and creating very centralized points of compute and basically tapping into already existing compute, which makes up for the vast majority of compute worldwide, which are consumer devices that you carry around. I can also see that there is a very, very strong push from everyone, including these people that are creating the data centers to run those AI workloads, to make AI workloads more manageable. And what manageable means is that they're able to run on more parallel instances on smaller devices. So for us specifically, that translates to that we started including support to run LLMs in Acurast about 2 years ago, and the LLMs were really not that helpful because those were really small LLMs compared to the ones that you have now with ChatGPT that there was no match. Basically, it was really hallucinating way more than providing you a lot of useful information. Looking now fast forward 3 years, that's completely changed. These models are able to fit and run on mobile devices, run very, very efficiently, plus also be very, very useful. And our bet was not to just run LLMs, but be able to run them in a confidential execution environment, which means that whichever data you start sharing with them never leaves like your session with that specific environment. So yeah, I personally believe that this investment into huge data centers, which basically had the narrative of being there because it will replace all human work whatsoever, it's not what I believe in personally. And what I do believe, on the other hand, is that the future looks way more decentralized. That's, by the way, also what Apple and Google is believing, because you're all of a sudden able to offload all of your investments into compute onto the consumer. Basically, every consumer just buys a $1,000 iPhone, which are the best chips out there on the market. So why don't you just leverage them to compute for you? And we're just piggybacking on top of that with a network like Acurast, because we are just then allowing those consumers to onboard and provide that compute to this network in a decentralized way. Yeah.
Perfect. I want to move on with you, Elizabeth. So, Flock, you're training AI on private data without moving it. So, which industries are actually blocking us from using AI today because of private data privacy? And how big is the market actually?
Right, thank you. So I would say healthcare and also government sector, including defense and also finance sectors. These are all sectors that are heavily regulated and possibly for very good reason, because for privacy concerns or other ethical considerations. Just take healthcare as an example. Medical AI actually, it's expected to hit $180 billion by 2030. But the bottleneck that we're having right now is that the most useful and meaningful development in medical AI is actually blocked because the data that we need to train the best medical model is actually sitting at siloed hospitals. And we are not able to basically share the data across jurisdictions because of all various, legal frameworks and regulations, including GDPR and HIPAA. So there's no way for us to safely and privately share data across continents, basically. And what Flock is trying to do is basically we don't move the data around because that's not possible. And we basically do it in a reverse way where we actually bring the model to the data so that we train on the private data, but the data would always stay local. Just to give you an example, starting from last year, we actually started a project for diabetes detection, and we train on more than 400 patients' data across hospitals in the US, in Europe, in the UK, and also in China. There is no reasonable reason to believe that these hospitals would trust each other, right? Because especially in today's geopolitical situation, I wouldn't even imagine, a US hospital trusting a Chinese hospital and vice versa. I guess that's especially true after COVID. We're sitting here right now in Switzerland where there's a huge, UN presence here, but I think even the United Nations wouldn't dare to be the kind of like the mediator between, for stuff like that. So what we are trying to do is basically remove the trust assumption by using blockchain so that even though they don't trust each other, they may have distrust with each other, you can still train your model with private data where data is staying within the hospital, within the device. And in that way, it's huge because we're basically unlocking the other half of the AI market where we relied on privacy gated AI use case scenario. So in a nutshell, it's still a huge market. It's still a missing piece out there where it still remain to be explored.
Cool. And Jan, I know you like to talk about prediction markets because this is exactly what you guys are building. So you're building an AI trading operating system for exactly this. And why does the infrastructure need blockchain underneath than the traditional way that we know it today?
So that's a very good question. It's, I guess, the question of what's the next, let's say, organizational technology. So after the Industrial Revolution, we got this Taylor Fordism wave that we have basically integrated corporations with middle management and sending information here and now. And now with the AI, we are seeing, for example, there's this essay by Jack Dorsey, the founder of Twitter, on Twitter right now, stating that basically we can do away with the whole middle management and people will be just acting on the edge and they will be just given stuff by AI and they'll be making some decisions, so we can just basically reimagine the whole organization and how the corporations and any kind of organizations will be working. So here's the question of AI and blockchain, what basically AI is good at And there's like someone told here that what AI is basically doing is just hallucinating, and it happens to be right because it is we who are saying that it is right, because it's all about human judgment. It's just some stochastic probabilistic output, and it's up to us whether AI what is saying it's right or not. It's not just objective. The judgment is with us. So basically what I'm saying is that it's humans who are making the judgment. So in case we are giving more and more power to AI to make certain decisions, it would be great, given that they are hallucinating, to see what these decisions are and where are they. So I guess blockchain, this is the place where this decision may be and should be put it on blockchain, because they should be immutable, they should be revisable, and we might as well imagine that if AI made one decision, there's like hundreds of agents talking with each other, and they can change each other. So even one day you have this decision, you show the log, it was there, but then it's not there. So for example, when I'm using Perplexity right now, computer, it's just a mess, it's a chaos. You don't know what's happening there, although it's working somehow. But in finance, when you manage people's money, you need this fixed. So I guess the role of the blockchain here at some point is not perhaps, but I'm not a technical guy, but it seems to me that the computing power necessary for AI to perform as it is performing, it means blockchain is not workable here. But for strategic decisions, for like registry of decision, for AI to actually be useful in this organizational change, and even if we allow AI to make some decisions, we need to keep a log of this and then be able to change these decisions. So what we are doing at Elastics, we are approaching AI as a way to enhance humans, as an assistant, as a cognitive enhancer, and a way to, let's say, automate the tasks which can be automated away without, let's say, detriment to where is the edge. And we see in the future when on the blockchain, especially within the bigger organizations, these decisions that have been made within AI, they need to be on the blockchain just for trust and control over what these agents are doing, basically. So that's my take.
Cool. I want to go one step further and talk a bit about the trust crisis that we might have, because AI is scaling way faster than our ability to really know what it does and verify what it does. Just like who trained it, on what data, who's running it, and which servers, and blockchain's core value is to verify truth. And I want to go back to your example, Elizabeth, about the hospitals, and if a hospital trains an AI model on patient data using Flock, how does the blockchain actually prove that the data never left, or why should a regulator trust the proof?
Testing. Thank you. Thank you. So on the first question, like, why do we know that like the data would never leave the device? That's exactly the point of having federated learning, because in federated learning, basically, we use local data to train the model, but then what gets shared is actually just the gradients. So that's just a mathematical representation of the updates that you get from local training. So everything that's shared globally is just the gradients, but not the data. And that's what we meant by not bringing the data to the model, but bringing the model to the data. And that's basically the point of federated learning. And why should regulators trust us? They shouldn't trust us. There's no need to trust us or any company. First of all, unlike most of the centralized AI state-of-the-art models in today's world, all our source code, it's open source. If it's not on chain, we open source everything that we use. And if it's on chain, then it's smart contract. So by default, it's open and you can audit it. So that gives a sense of, you know, at least you can audit what's going on. It's not a black box, you know what's going on. And specifically on the use of blockchain, there are two ways why it enhances security and that kind of transparency in AI training. First of all, in our federated learning, in traditional sense, there is always a central aggregator, meaning that once you train all your local do your local training, you basically upload that to a centralized aggregator. And as I said before, if you're doing it cross regions, cross continents, cross jurisdictions, there's always an assumption of trust, right? And it's not always possible to have that kind of trust, especially in today's, highly heightened political tension. So what we do is basically remove that trust assumption by not having a centralized aggregator. So instead, we basically do peer-to-peer validation, just like how Bitcoin works, right? Miners would come together to have consensus on which block to be included to the next, in the network. By the same token, pun intended, in our network, basically all the training nodes, basically essentially the miners in AI training, they would come together to vote on what exactly should be included in the next update for the model training. So in that case, we don't need a centralized aggregator. We don't need a centralized entity to basically uphold the order. They can do it in a decentralized consensus way. And the second way that we do it is basically before anyone can join the training in our platform, they have to stick a certain amount of tokens before they can participate. And in that way, if they act maliciously, we basically would slash them so that the eventual effect of malicious actors would actually be reduced. And again, either the voting or the slashing and the rewarding are all on chain. So any regulator, any auditor, anyone from the public could easily check what's going on in the chain. So we basically would say our FL solution is a combination of proof of work on one hand and proof of stake on the other hand. And together, we basically don't even need regulators to trust us because it operates in a trustless way.
Cool. I have a question for all of you, because like we've seen in the crypto industry, I think it is just a matter of time before regulators are coming very hard also for AI. So the question is our industry or is the industry ready for this? And will we also see like very promising projects being killed because of regulations, or how do you see that situation?
I personally think that they will try and are waking up to it, but are very, very slow because the regulator don't necessarily want to be the one kind of destroying the party, right? I do think many people realize that this is a fantastic technology. Specifically now I'm referring to LLMs because AI is something that has been now discussed about 10 years, even more, machine learning. And it definitely lost its touch. And then because of LLMs, we're now all talking again about AI, right? And one thing that is worth mentioning is that the reason why in this first wave of AI it lost its touch is because there is this technical issue with AI models, which is called overfitting. So where you could throw more and more data at the model, it would get better, but all of a sudden, throwing more data at it, it started to get worse, right? And that meant that it could not really fulfill on the promise back then. Now with LLMs, the game has changed because it looks like the more data we throw at it, the better it gets. So now it's the question, right? Is it something that we haven't reached kind of the level yet? Okay, and then maybe it will plateau at some point. Or is it really this fantastic technology that will just keep on improving the more stuff you throw at it? Which, a little side note, which also goes a little bit into the whole regulator space, all the AI models today are trained on public data, right? But the vast majority of data, which goes a little bit into your area, is actually private data. So it's in databases of enterprises and so on and so forth. So what I think to see whether we are reaching that plateau or not, we need to somehow get access to that private data to be able to further train those models. And there definitely you will start needing some some sort of regulations, because if all of a sudden your secrets of your private data is being hallucinated in a way that it's linkable to you, I don't think you would necessarily like that on that side. So yes, I do believe that regulation will come. I do believe that regulation has not the intent to stop this technology, because it does add a lot of value. I think there is no one neglecting or saying something against that. But yeah, also I believe it will be weaponized now in the geopolitical situation, where you see that all these hyperscalers and US companies are basically sitting on these models, and then China is now catching up with even better models and everything. So I think that there will be some sort of regulation stopping one country to use some sort of LLMs versus the other countries. So, yeah.
So maybe I'll just recap the quick story of the EU AI Act from the last few months, because that's very interesting. Maybe not everyone is following this. So basically, EU enacted EU AI Act is already 2 years ago, and basically the regulation focuses on general purpose AI systems, so basically LLMs, and then high risk AI systems. So high risk AI systems are defined by the purpose of what you're doing, and there's like catalogs of stuff. So basically the assumption around 2022 was that, oh, AI is so dangerous, there'll be so much risks and disruptions that we need to regulate it. And because what EU is doing is regulating. And we are here in 2026 and we are somehow still alive. And it's great technology, productivity, huge potential and stuff. And in US, they just basically said, no, we won't be regulating this. Biden administration did some guidelines. Trump came and even scrapped these guidelines, and that's it basically. So once European Commission and EU member states saw that actually the world is not burning somehow, and these technologies are not so scary, and people are coping with deepfakes, that no one anyhow digitally literate is treating them seriously, basically, like just very digitally illiterate people. For them, that's a serious threat, but it's a marginal threat on a society scale. Everyone is aware that it's not such a big thing, that the biggest threat related to AI is basically surveillance, that you can just enroll Orwellian state, Palantir stuff, kind of what maybe Americans need to just go deep into themselves and think carefully about where they are going, or Chinese. But it's not that suddenly the world will start to burn. So in EU, they just realize, okay, we have already this AI Act in force, but we can keep on postponing the entry, basically. So they keep on postponing the entry of the AI Act, basically high-risk AI system, general purpose AI systems and stuff, and they are realizing that it's such a huge potential that otherwise, if they have AI Act, no one will be doing business in EU. So I don't think we should be really much concerned about regulatory stuff. Also, because even if EU AI Act is in place, it will be majorly focused on companies from US. And basically, as an US and as a EU member state enforcer, some agency, good luck going after OpenAI and Anthropic with Trump administration. Good luck, guys. So I'm really much admiring what Swiss people are doing here, because they are doing nothing, and that's great, basically. And regarding the regulation, if everyone is thinking about AI, blockchain, the only thing you need to know is GDPR, basically, or Federal Data Protection Law, because that's the most relevant stuff. If you process personal data, if privacy, the right to privacy or right to data protection is concerned, that's it. Just go to the GDPR lawyer and he'll solve this issue. But AI as such, I don't think this big issue from a regulatory perspective right now. You just need to respect certain transparency rules. So you just basically need to tell people, we are using AI, this is deepfake, and that's it. So I would not be thinking that regulatory thing is it's critical right now, unless you are huge and you process a lot of personal data. So whatever you should be thinking when implementing AI is, how do I process personal data? Because it's all about privacy and this privacy-related risks. This captures like 90% of the regulatory, ethical, moral, legal issues.
I wanna continue directly, because there is one last very interesting topic, and that is the autonomous agent economy. that I would really like to hear your inputs on. So in the end game is not that human is using AI, but actually that an AI is using an AI. So it would initially be an AI holding a wallet, paying for computing, trade assets, sign contracts, and make a decision based on machine speed. And if I continue with you, Jan, an AI agent making autonomous financial decisions is basically an unregulated fund manager. How would you resolve that topic legally? And does blockchain make it better or worse from a liability standpoint?
I guess blockchain allows you to trace what happens, basically. So if you have these decisions by AI agents, our approach at Elastics is that so we see on Twitter a lot of bots, for example, trading on prediction markets and making quite good money there based on certain quantitative arbitrage strategies. We are not focused right now that much on this quantitative strategies and giving these fully autonomous bots. We just want to augment human judgment and decision making. Regulatory speaking, yes, this is complex, basic, and I'm not a financial lawyer. I used to be a data protection lawyer, so I cannot answer this question here and now. But I just like when we use right now Claude or Perplexity, people are asking about financial advice, and somehow also this they undertake this responsibility. So I'm not I'm not qualified to talk about legal stuff, but maybe we should be thinking a bit more about ethical or moral, let's say, underpinning, because the rationale of regulating asset managers and financial advisors is that what they are telling you, they're professionals like lawyers, and what they're telling their clients, it impacts their life. But right now, since 2-3 years, people are using LLMs. I guess a lot of people are asking health-related, legal-related, finance-related questions to LLMs, and to far extent, they may be even relying on these decisions. So this is a bigger social issue. To what extent should we be trusting these LLMs? And then I don't think it's feasible to regulate LLM providers as financial advisors, asset managers also, etc. So it's a bigger issue. I don't feel qualified to answer. Just for us is that the first step for us is to augment human judgment, free the time for more cognitive work, for more strategizing, less time on looking, browsing the tabs with markets, etc. So maybe an interesting angle also to inform decisions of AI agents better, like, because I really wanted just to talk a bit about prediction markets, is that prediction markets give you the best probability there because it's aggregated wisdom of the crowds, and I believe in the future where these probabilities will be informing also the decisions of AI agents in this AI agentic economy. So perhaps what AI gives us is there's an opportunity to automate a lot of tasks, just go make this agent roam, but still it will be prediction markets that could be giving this information layer for AI agents to make an informed judgment, or at least not to do crazy stuff.
Last question for you, Elizabeth. If an AI model is collectively trained by thousands of contributors on chain, who's owning it? Who will govern it? And how would you also stop a 51% attack on the training process?
Yes, so in terms of who owns it, I guess everyone owns it because the model that's being trained on our platform, it's all open source. So I guess a more interesting and perhaps meaningful question is to ask who actually gets rewarded for training the model. If you, in case you don't know, we actually, everyone in this room, we are responsible for training ChatGPT. As long as you have written something on the internet, actually the data on the public internet is all used to train this state-of-the-art LLM. But last time I checked, no one is paying us anything for training that model, so I'm still waiting. This is getting the reason why we're using blockchain and why we're pushing the narrative of decentralized AI that hard is we believe that the ownership should always belong to the public, and specifically anyone who's contributing to training the model, including the ones who are contributing the data, so everyone here in this room. And that's how we are trying to, that's why we're trying to build an economy on chain where anyone can get credits for contributing to AI development, and in return you get rewards. And in terms of how we govern it, I guess people from the Web3 world wouldn't be, a stranger to governance. Basically, we can just create a DAO where anyone who holds the token would be able to vote how the rewards would work, how the mechanism would work, what kind of machine learning problem we should try to solve. And the beauty of a DAO is that not only humans can participate in the voting, even AI agents could participate on equal footing with humans. In terms of 51% attack, the research that we're doing, and we constantly publish in high rank, top rank, peer-reviewed journal and conferences. The research that we're doing shows that our network, our platforms are robust enough to assume that as long as 40%, as long as 80% of the people are being honest, actually we're robust enough to resist malicious attack, and at the same time we can also preserve the model performance. So this is something that is already tested in battles. We're already deploying in production, and as we use it more, then we believe that the system would gain more and more robust.
Perfect. Before we close off, I want each of you to finish a sentence, and that is AI needs blockchain because?
Verified truth, I think.
AI needs blockchain because that's the only way that we get AI of the people, by the people, and for the people.
I think AI needs blockchain because it's the only way that we are not getting cheated by AI.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time, and have a good coffee break.
Thanks.